I want to talk about Joe Biden's trip to Hawaii and look at his actions or inaction in some cases as a window into what kind of a guy is Joe Biden. Now, we know things about Joe Biden. He's a crook. He is a organizer of a racket that he's been running for years, all of which I think is highly deserving of an impeachment inquiry, if not an impeachment. But what's Joe Biden like as a person? And we see this in situations that involve emotional upheaval, involve stress. We saw, for example, a window into George W. Bush when 9/11 happened. So let's look at Biden. He goes to Maui, and his ostensible purpose of going is to express his sympathy, his condolences. And you might expect that Joe Biden would do the normal thing and say, hey, listen, this is just horrible. I mean, people burn to death. You have horrible isolation, horrible suffering, some of it due to policy negligence. You've got the guy in Hawaii who won't release water because water is sacred, and we in Hawaii believe in water being treated as something that should be distributed equitably. And all of these DEI type policies contributing to the horror of and the magnitude of the suffering in Hawaii. 114 people burned to death, over 1,000 people still missing, a lot of them children. And you might again expect Joe Biden to say, listen, my heart goes out to you guys. It's not something I can even imagine having to go through. This is suffering that must be almost impossible, must require almost spiritual strength to be able to endure. Instead, he says none of that. He does the Joe Biden thing, and the Joe Biden thing is to bring it back to himself. Now, this is not kind of radical narcissism of the Obama type. I mean, when Obama talked about bin Laden, you got the idea that Obama, there was so many I's in his speech, I this, I that you would think he did it himself. And usually when people who do very little, they just sign an authorization, but they want to claim credit for everything that happened. So Obama, what did you do to get rid of bin Laden? Oh, I sprang into action. I held a meeting. I assembled a team, blah, blah, blah. With Joe Biden, the I takes on a little different connotation. With Joe Biden, it's always like, oh, you think you're suffering? Well, I can totally identify because you know what? The same thing happened to me. You think that you lost your kid in Afghanistan or in Iraq due to my horrible botched policies in Afghanistan? No problem. Reminds me of the time my son was killed in combat. Leave aside the fact that Joe Biden's son was not killed in combat. But Joe Biden basically makes up, he exaggerates, and this is his form of narcissism, which is always to bring it back to himself and say sort of, funny you mentioned this because the same thing happened to me. And in Maui, this took an almost comic quality. Joe Biden goes, oh yeah, you think you're suffering. Well, guess what? My house burned down. Now, Joe Biden's house did not burn down. There was a kitchen fire which lasted for precisely 20 minutes, according to official reports. And then, as if to pile on insensitivity on top of insensitivity, Biden goes, I almost lost my cat. I almost lost my Corvette. And there are memes now on Facebook and so on of like a big blazing fire consuming the whole horizon. And there's Joe Biden driving away in his blue Corvette, 1967 Corvette. So this, I think, reflects the callousness, the isolation, the out-of-touchness, the fact that we have a chief executive who just doesn't really care. And so he can't say that. He can't say, you know what, you guys in Hawaii, I mean, you've had it rough, so no big deal to me. I'm getting on in years. I've got my own problems. I got to stay one step ahead of the posse. And I'm trying to get reelected. But he can't say that. So he goes, guess what? The same thing happened to me. But far from this showing empathy, consideration, and in fact, think about it even in normal terms. If you lose a child or you lose a mother, and someone comes up to you and goes, well, I lost my mother 30 years ago. Well, we're not talking about your mother. You're over that. It's been a long time ago. We're talking about my mother who just died. And all I'm looking for you to say is, I'm really sorry to see you having to go through this. It's always tough to lose a parent. End of story. But it's not the end of story to Joe Biden. And that, I think, is a telling window into this man's ugly character. If aches and pains are your problem, Relief Factor is your solution. Debbie and I started taking Relief Factor a couple of years ago, and we've experienced a difference. Our joints, nothing short of amazing. Aches and pains are totally gone thanks to this 100% drug-free solution called Relief Factor. How does it work? Relief Factor supports your body's fight against inflammation. That's the source of aches and pains. The vast majority of people who try Relief Factor order more because it works for them. It works for Debbie. She can now do exercises that for several years she wasn't able to do. So it's been a big game changer for her aunt, other members of our family. Mike here in the studio now is a regular user of Relief Factor. You too can benefit. Try it for yourself. Order the 3-week quick start for the discounted price of just $19.95. Go to relieffactor.com or call 800-4-RELIEF to find out more about this offer. Number again to call, 800-4-RELIEF, or go to relieffactor.com. Feel the difference.